A billionaire's wife was dying, slow, invisible, her blood turning on itself from the inside. All his billions couldn't stop it. Only one type could save her. AB negative. Less than 1% of the population. For 14 months, one woman gave blood every month, then went back to pushing meal carts for $13.50 an hour. She brought food to the woman she was keeping alive. Every day. They talked. They laughed. Neither knew. And he, worth $3.8 billion, never once saw her. Then he found out. What he did next would either change her life forever or prove that gratitude from the powerful always comes with a price. It was 5:47 in the morning. A Tuesday in November. The kind of cold that sneaks through walls. Kendra Wallace opened her eyes before the alarm went off. She always did. Her body had learned to wake up in the dark the way other people's bodies learn to breathe. Automatic. No choice involved. Her apartment was a one-bedroom on the third floor of a building on the west side of Chicago. The walls were thin enough to hear the couple next door arguing in Spanish. The pipes groaned every time someone on the floor above flushed. The kitchen light flickered one of those long fluorescent tubes that buzzes when it is dying. It had been dying for 3 weeks. She had not replaced it because a new bulb cost $11, and $11 was not nothing. The place smelled like dish soap and old carpet and the faint sweetness of the cereal she had left in a bowl on the counter. That cereal was for Darius Wallace, 6 years old, asleep on the pull-out sofa in the living room because there was only one bedroom, and Kendra gave it to him on the nights he had nightmares, which meant she slept on the sofa most of the time, and he slept in the bed. Tonight he had fallen asleep watching cartoons on the couch, so she let him stay. She pulled the blanket up to his chin, tucked it around his shoulders the way her grandmother used to tuck it around hers. She set his breakfast on the table. A bowl, a spoon, a box of cereal, a small carton of milk. Beside it, a note written on the back of a grocery receipt. "I will be home before you wake up, baby. Love, Mama." Mrs. Dolores from the apartment downstairs would come up at 7 to walk Darius to school. Kendra paid her $40 a week in cash. It was the one expense she could not cut. She had cut everything else already. By 6:02, Kendra was pushing through the staff entrance of St. Catherine's Medical Center, badge clipped to her scrubs, hair pulled back tight, shoes that had been resoled once and were starting to separate again at the toe. Her title was dietary aide. That is the person who prepares and delivers meal trays to patients. Every tray labeled with a name, a room number, a dietary code. Low sodium, pureed, diabetic friendly. Clear liquids only. Kendra knew 47 rooms across 3 floors. She knew them the way a mail carrier knows a route. By heart, by habit, by repetition so deep it lives in your muscles. She knew that the woman in room 412 needed her food cut small because her left hand shook too much to hold a knife. She knew that the man in 521 would not eat unless someone put the tray on his right side because his left arm was hooked to an IV. She knew that the teenager in 430 needed a straw because she had just had jaw surgery and could not open her mouth wide enough for a spoon. Kendra knew all of this. None of it was in her job description. Her job description said, prepare trays, deliver trays, collect trays. That was it. She was non-clinical staff. She did not touch patients. She did not read charts. She did not attend rounds. She was not invited to meetings. In the organizational chart of St. Catherine's Medical Center, Kendra Wallace did not exist. Doctors walked past her cart, like it was furniture, like she was furniture. Nurses called her the food girl. Not with cruelty, with something worse. Indifference. The kind of invisibility that does not even know it is making someone invisible. Her shift supervisor, Rhonda, ran the dietary department with a clipboard and a stopwatch and a voice that carried down hallways. You have got 47 trays, Kendra. Clock is ticking. Rhonda never asked how she was doing. Never asked about Darius. Never asked anything that did not involve a tray number or a delivery time. Kendra made $13.50 an hour. After taxes, that came to about $1,800 a month. Rent for a safe neighborhood in Chicago cost $1,200. That left $600 for everything else: food, bus fare, childcare, the $11 light bulb she still had not bought. But here is the thing about Kendra Wallace. She knew every patient's name. Not their room number, their name. She remembered who liked extra sugar in their tea, who needed warm water instead of cold, who smiled when she walked in and who had stopped smiling weeks ago. She was the first face most patients saw every morning, before the doctors, before the nurses, before anyone with a title that mattered. And nobody knew it, nobody saw it, nobody wrote it down. Every month after her morning shift ended, Kendra did not go home. She should have. She should have taken the bus back to her apartment and slept before picking up Darius from school. But instead, she turned left at the lobby, walked past the cafeteria, past the gift shop, down a hallway that most people in this hospital did not even know existed. She walked into the blood bank. She did this the way other people stop for coffee, without thinking, without drama, without telling anyone. It was just something she did. The nurse at the front desk looked up. She knew Kendra by now. "You are early this month, Kendra." Kendra shrugged, sat down in the donation chair the way most people sit down at a bus stop, casual, routine, like giving away a piece of yourself was just another Tuesday. The nurse tied the rubber band around her arm, tapped for a vein, found it quick. She always did. Kendra had good veins, the kind that show up easy and do not roll. "You know," the nurse said while prepping the needle, "your blood type is something else. AB negative. Less than 1% of the population carries it. We are always running low. Always. There are maybe 3 regular AB negative donors in this whole city, and most of them do not come in every month the way you do." Kendra watched the needle slide in, watched her blood, dark and warm, begin filling the bag. She did not flinch. She never did. "Do you ever wonder who gets it?" the nurse asked. "Your blood, I mean. We cannot tell you, obviously. Donor anonymity. Once it leaves here, it gets processed, typed, cross-matched, and sent wherever it is needed. You will never know whose body it ends up in, and they will never know it came from you." Kendra shook her head. "I do not need to know. My grandmother used to say something. She said you do not give blood because you know who needs it. You give it because someone does. That is enough." She said it the way some people recite a phone number. Not dramatic. Not trying to be wise. Just repeating something she had heard so many times it had become part of how she breathed. Patricia finished the draw, labeled the bag, placed it in the cooler alongside the others. Kendra's blood would be tested, processed, and delivered to a patient within 48 hours. That was the system. Anonymous, efficient, invisible. One person gives. Another person receives. And neither one ever knows the other exists. Kendra pressed the cotton ball against the inside of her elbow. Held it there. She had done this 13 times before today. 13 months of quiet giving. She did not do it for recognition. Did not do it for money. There was no money. Blood donation is free. You give it, they take it. And the only payment is a cookie and a small cup of orange juice that Kendra always accepted because she had learned a long time ago never to turn down free food. She sat in the recovery chair for the required 15 minutes, drank her juice, ate her cookie. Then she stood up, put her thin jacket back on, and walked out of the blood bank the same way she walked in, quietly, without anyone watching. She did not know whose veins her blood would flow through. She did not need to know. But if she had known, everything about her life would have been different. Stay with me, because the woman receiving Kendra's blood right now is married to a man whose name is on the side of this building. 4 floors above where Kendra gave her blood every month, a different world existed. A world that smelled like fresh lilies instead of floor cleaner. A world where the hospital rooms had leather recliners and linen sheets imported from Italy, and a view of Lake Michigan that most people in Chicago would never see from that angle. This was the VIP wing. And in room 618, a woman named Vivian Foster was sitting up in bed reading a novel while a bag of dark red blood dripped slowly into her left arm. Vivian was 44 years old. Before she got sick, she had been the kind of woman who filled rooms with energy. She ran a foundation that funded music programs in underserved schools across the South Side. She organized galas. She mentored teenage girls from Englewood and Auburn Gresham. She laughed loud and often and never apologized for it. Now her skin was the color of parchment. Her hair, once thick and dark, had thinned from months of treatment. Her hands were slim, almost fragile, but her eyes were still sharp, still bright, still paying attention to everything around her. Vivian had thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura, TTP, a rare blood disorder where the body turns against itself. The immune system creates thousands of tiny blood clots inside the blood vessels, consuming platelets and destroying red blood cells faster than the body can replace them. Without regular transfusions of plasma and AB-negative blood, Vivian's organs would slowly starve of oxygen. Her kidneys first, then her heart. The transfusions were the only thing keeping her alive. 1 bag of AB-negative blood every month, matched to her exact type. Without it, she had weeks, maybe less. Her husband sat beside her. Lionel Foster, 47 years old, founder and CEO of Foster Genomics, a biotech company valued at $3.8 billion that developed gene therapies for rare diseases. Lionel's face had been on the cover of Forbes twice. He had spoken at the World Health Summit in Berlin. He had shaken hands with senators and surgeons general. His technology had helped diagnose early-stage rare blood disorders in over 9,000 children across 30 countries. And his wife was dying, right here, in a building that bore his family's name on the East Wing dedication plaque. Lionel watched the blood drip, watched it enter Vivian's arm through the IV line, watched the color slowly return to her face, the way it did every month. A temporary fix, a borrowed life. He gripped the bedrail. His knuckles went white. He felt the same thing he felt every single month in this room. Rage. Not at anyone. Not at anything he could fight. Just rage at the universe for giving him the power to save other people's children, but not his own wife. Dr. Evelyn Achebe walked in, head of hematology, Nigerian-born, brilliant. Steady in the way that only doctors who have delivered the worst news 1,000 times can be steady. "How is she responding today?" Lionel asked, without looking away from the IV drip. "Well, her numbers should stabilize within 24 hours. Same as last month." Dr. Achebe checked the monitors, adjusted a setting, made a note. Lionel leaned forward. "How is it possible that I fund research in 30 countries, but I cannot find a reliable blood donor for my own wife?" Dr. Achebe looked at him, not with pity, with patience. "Because blood does not care about your net worth, Mr. Foster. It only cares about compatibility. AB negative is the rarest type, less than 1% of the population. We cannot manufacture it. We cannot synthesize it. And we cannot force people to donate it. All we can do is hope that the right person shows up." Lionel stared at the blood bag. Someone else's blood, a stranger's blood. The only thing between his wife and a slow death. "Who donates this?" he asked. "Is it the same person every time?" Dr. Achebe paused. "Donor information is confidential. Mr. Foster, you know that. The blood bank operates on strict anonymity. I am not asking to pressure anyone. I want to thank them. I want to make sure they keep coming back. I need to know that my wife's life does not depend on some stranger deciding to skip a month." Dr. Achebe set down her chart. "I understand your concern, and I can tell you this much. Your wife's primary donor has been consistent for over 14 months, the same person, every month, without fail, without being asked, without knowing whose blood they are giving or why. 14 months, someone had been saving his wife's life for over a year, and Lionel did not know their name, did not know if they were a man or a woman, did not know anything. And I cannot know who they are. No, you cannot." Dr. Achebe turned back to her screen. On it, a donor file, a name she saw every month. She looked at the name, then she closed the file. "She will be back next month. She always comes back." Lionel did not catch the pronoun. He was too focused on the blood bag, too focused on the terrible, humbling reality that all his money, all his technology, all his power could not do what one anonymous stranger was doing for free. He sat in a $4,000 chair, looked out the window at the Chicago skyline, and somewhere below him, in a part of this hospital he had never visited, a woman he had never noticed was heading home on a bus with a cotton ball taped to the inside of her arm. Every morning at 7:15, Kendra pushed her meal cart onto the 6th floor. The VIP wing. The air was different up here. Cleaner, warmer. The floors were polished to a shine that the lower floors never got. Fresh flowers sat on the nursing station counter, the kind that get replaced before they even start to wilt. Kendra noticed all of it. She noticed the thread count in the sheets because she had spent years making beds in rooms where the sheets were stiff and thin. She noticed the leather recliners because she went home every night to a sofa that sagged in the middle. She noticed the silence, the luxury of quiet. Room 618 was always the last stop on her route. She saved it for last, not because she had to, because she wanted to. She knocked softly, pushed the door open with her hip, both hands on the tray. "Good morning, Kendra." Vivian Foster was sitting up, book on her lap, reading glasses pushed up on her forehead. She smiled when Kendra walked in, a real smile, the kind that reaches the eyes. "Good morning, Mrs. Foster. I brought your tea. Warm, not hot, just how you like it." Vivian's face softened. "You always remember. That is my job." "No, it is not," Vivian said it gently. "Your job is to bring food. Remembering how I like my tea is something else entirely." Kendra set the tray down, adjusted the napkin, placed the cup where Vivian could reach it without stretching her IV arm. These were small things. Things no one had ever asked her to do. Things no one would ever notice. But Kendra did them anyway, every single day. "How is Darius?" Vivian asked. "Did he finish that drawing he was telling me about?" Kendra blinked. Most patients did not ask about her life. Most patients did not know she had a life. But Vivian had asked about Darius 3 weeks ago, when Kendra mentioned she needed to leave on time for a parent-teacher conference. And Vivian had remembered. She kept remembering. He finished it. Drew the whole family. Me, him, and his grandma Gloria. Even though Gloria passed 4 years ago, he says she still counts. Vivian nodded. She does. People do not stop counting just because they stop breathing. They talked for another minute. Maybe 2. Not long. Kendra had other trays to deliver. But in that minute, Vivian asked if Kendra was sleeping enough. Asked if she had eaten breakfast. Asked the way a person asks when they actually want to hear the answer. Vivian Foster had spent years running a foundation. She had sat in living rooms in Englewood and Auburn Gresham and listened to single mothers talk about what it takes to hold a life together with nothing. She did not see Kendra as the food girl. She saw her as a mother who got up before dawn and showed up every single day and never complained. She saw her, and in this entire hospital, she might have been the only one who did. Kendra glanced at the IV pole beside Vivian's bed. A bag of blood hung there half empty, dripping slowly into Vivian's arm through a thin, clear line. Dark red, almost black in the dim morning light. Kendra did not think twice about it. She saw blood bags every day. Dozens of them, hanging beside dozens of beds. They were medical equipment. Background, part of the scenery. She had no reason to think this bag was different. She had no reason to connect it to herself. She picked up yesterday's empty tray from the side table, stacked it on her cart, straightened the blanket at the foot of Vivian's bed without being asked, and turned to leave. "I will see you tomorrow, Mrs. Foster. I will be here." Vivian smiled. "I am not going anywhere." Kendra pushed her cart into the hallway. The door closed softly behind her. She did not know that the blood dripping into Vivian's arm had come from her own veins 3 days ago. She did not know that she was the reason Vivian could sit up and smile this morning. She did not know that the woman who remembered her name was alive because of what Kendra gave away for free every month in a room 2 floors below. She did not know any of it. She just set the tray down, adjusted the napkin, and said, "I will see you tomorrow, Mrs. Foster." Kendra Wallace grew up on the South Side of Chicago. Not the version of the South Side you see in headlines, the version where people go to work and come home and try to hold things together with whatever they have got, which usually is not much. She was raised by her grandmother, Gloria Wallace, a woman who stood 4 feet 11 inches tall and carried herself like she was 6 feet. Gloria worked as a nurse's aide at Mount Sinai Community Hospital for 35 years. 35 years of lifting patients twice her size. 35 years of changing wound dressings and emptying bedpans and being the first person a scared patient saw when they woke up after surgery. Gloria made $14 an hour at her peak. She never complained about it. Not once. She believed hospitals were sacred ground. She used to tell Kendra that every person who walks through those doors is at their weakest. And the way you treat someone at their weakest tells the world everything it needs to know about who you are. Gloria also taught Kendra to give blood. The first time was the week after Kendra turned 16. They went to a community blood drive at the church on 63rd Street. Kendra sat in the donation chair with her jaw clenched and her eyes squeezed shut. She was terrified of the needle, terrified of seeing her own blood leave her body. Gloria held her hand, held it the whole time, and she said something that Kendra would carry for the rest of her life. You do not give blood because you know who needs it. You give it because someone does. That is enough. She said it simply. The way you say a thing you have said 1,000 times. Not for effect. Not trying to sound wise. Just stating a fact she believed the way she believed in gravity. Kendra donated every year after that, then every 6 months, then every 2 months. By the time she was 20, it was monthly. She had AB negative blood, the rarest type. The nurses at every blood bank she ever visited told her the same thing. We need you. We always need you. Kendra was smart. She graduated near the top of her class at Simeon Career Academy. She got a scholarship to the pre-nursing program at the University of Illinois, Chicago. Full ride. Books and tuition covered. Gloria cried the day the letter came, held it with both hands, and pressed it against her chest like it was something fragile. Kendra's first year was hard. The coursework was brutal, and she was the only one in her study group who worked weekends to cover living expenses. But she made it. Second year, she hit her stride. Top of the class in anatomy. Her clinical instructor told her she had the best instincts in the cohort. She could read a patient's face before she read their chart. She was going to be a nurse, a registered nurse. And after that, maybe a nurse practitioner. She could see it. She could taste it. The white coat, the badge with her name and the letters after it. The ability to walk into a room and not just comfort a patient, but treat them. Then, Gloria died. Complications from type 2 diabetes. A blood sugar crash in the middle of the night. Nobody found her until morning. She was 68 years old. She died in the apartment where she had raised Kendra in the bed she had slept in for 40 years alone. Kendra was 22. She buried her grandmother with money she did not have, took out a loan she could not afford, went back to class 2 days later because Gloria would have wanted her to. 7 months after that, Kendra found out she was pregnant. The father, a man she had been seeing for a year, a man who said he loved her, a man who talked about the future like it was something they would build together, disappeared. Not slowly, not with a fight, just gone. Phone disconnected. Apartment cleared out. Like he had never existed. Kendra was 6 months pregnant. No family, no savings. No one to call at 2 a.m. when the fear was so big it felt like drowning. She did the math. She sat on the floor of her dorm room with a calculator and a stack of bills, and she did the math. Tuition plus living expenses plus a baby. The numbers did not work. They could not work. Not without Gloria. Not without help. Not alone. She dropped out 3 semesters before finishing. 3 semesters away from becoming a registered nurse. 3 semesters away from the white coat and the badge. Instead, she got a dietary aid certification, 6 weeks of training, because hospitals were always hiring, because the pay was enough to cover rent if she ate 1 meal a day, and because it kept her inside a hospital, not as a nurse, not as a healer, but close enough to touch healing even if she could not practice it. Some people would have been bitter. Some people would have spent every shift staring at the nursing students in the hallway and feeling the loss like a knife. Kendra felt it. She felt it every single day. Every time a young resident walked past her in a white coat, every time she heard a nurse explain a diagnosis to a patient's family, every time she stood in the elevator next to someone who was becoming the thing she was supposed to become. But Gloria had taught her something that kept the bitterness from taking root. When you cannot heal with your hands, you heal some other way. With presence, with kindness, with blood. So Kendra kept showing up, kept delivering trays, kept remembering names, kept donating every month. And she raised Darius alone in a one-bedroom apartment on the west side of Chicago and never once told anyone at that hospital what she had given up to be there. Kendra got home that Tuesday at 3:15 in the afternoon. She could hear the television through the door before she opened it. Cartoons. The volume slightly too loud. That meant Darius had the apartment to himself. Mrs. Dolores downstairs always turned the volume down. She opened the door. Darius was on the floor, belly down, elbows propping up his chin, a box of crayons scattered around him like confetti. He was drawing. "Hey baby, how was school?" Darius did not look up. "Good. I am drawing." Kendra dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes. Her feet were swollen. They always were by 3. She sat down on the floor next to him, crossed her legs, leaned over to see what he was making. "What are you drawing?" Darius held it up. Crayon on printer paper. The kind of art only a 6-year-old can make. Bright colors. No sense of proportion. Full of meaning. "This is you, Mama. At the hospital. You are giving food to the sick people so they get better." Kendra looked at the drawing. He had drawn her big. Bigger than the building. Bigger than the beds. Bigger than the doctors. In his picture, she was the largest person in the hospital. She was holding a tray with both hands and smiling. In the real world, Kendra was invisible inside that building. In her son's world, she was the biggest thing in it. She held the drawing and something moved in her chest. Something warm. Something that hurt. "That is beautiful, baby. Can I keep it?" "You can put it on the fridge." She put it on the fridge, right next to last month's drawing of a dinosaur eating a pizza. She stood there looking at both of them for a moment longer than she needed to. Then the moment passed, and the math came back. Darius had been diagnosed 4 months ago. Chronic otitis media, a persistent middle ear infection that had caused damage to his eardrum. The doctor, an ENT specialist at Rush University Medical Center, had explained it clearly. Darius was losing hearing in his left ear. Not the gradual kind, the kind that gets worse with every infection. And the infections were not stopping. He needed surgery. A tympanoplasty. A procedure to repair the eardrum and restore hearing before the damage became permanent. Without it, the doctor said he would lose hearing in that ear within a year. Maybe sooner. The surgery cost between $15,000 and $20,000. Kendra's insurance through the hospital was the cheapest plan available. High deductible, low coverage. The kind of insurance that existed on paper, but disappeared when you actually needed it. She had called the billing department at Rush twice, asked about payment plans, asked about charity care, asked about financial hardship programs. Every answer came back the same way. "We can help, but you need to pay first. Then, we can help with the rest." That night, after Darius fell asleep on the couch with his mouth open and his crayon still in his hand, Kendra sat at the kitchen table, calculator in front of her, a legal pad, a pen. $1,800 a month. That was her take-home, minus $1,200 for rent, minus $160 for Mrs. Dolores, minus $90 for the bus pass, minus $200 for groceries, and that was if she only bought the basics: rice, beans, cereal, milk for Darius, nothing for herself most days. That left $150. $150 a month. She needed $15,000. She had $340 in savings. It sat in a checking account that charged her a $4 monthly fee for the privilege of being poor. Kendra stared at the numbers, ran them again. Changed nothing. Ran them a third time like the math might somehow come out different if she wanted it badly enough. It did not. She put the calculator down, walked to the couch, looked at Darius sleeping. His left ear, the one that was slowly going silent, was pressed against the pillow. His chest rose and fell. Steady, easy. The way only children breathe. She made a promise, not out loud. Inside. Where promises are heavier, you will not lose your hearing. I will find a way. I always find a way. But that night, for the first time in her life, she did not know what way to find. She turned off the light, lay down on her bed, stared at the ceiling. 4 floors above the room where she gave her blood, every month a woman was sleeping in a hospital bed with imported Italian linen. That woman's husband could buy the entire hospital and still have enough left over to buy 2 more. And Kendra Wallace, the woman keeping that patient alive, did not have enough money to fix her son's ear. Nobody told her those 2 facts were connected. Nobody had to. If you are already invested in this story, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because what is about to happen between Kendra and the woman in room 618 will break your heart in the best way possible. The next morning, Vivian asked about Darius again. Kendra was setting down the breakfast tray. Warm tea, not hot, scrambled eggs, dry toast. She had the order memorized. She always did. "How is that boy of yours?" Vivian asked. She was sitting up today. Good color. The last transfusion was holding. Did he finish the drawing he was working on? Kendra smiled. He did. Drew me at the hospital, made me bigger than the building. Vivian laughed. That is because to him, you are bigger than the building. He is 6. Everything is bigger when you are 6. No. Vivian shook her head. Some things really are that big. IUCAMA. You just stop noticing when you get older. They were quiet for a moment. The kind of quiet that happens between people who are comfortable enough to let silence sit. Then, Vivian said something she had not said before. I always wanted children. Lionel and I tried for years. IVF twice. The first round failed. The second round, we were about to start the transfer when the TTP hit. She looked at her hands. Thin, pale. The hands of a woman whose body had turned on itself. By the time I was stable enough to try again, the doctors said the risk was too high, that my body could not handle pregnancy and the disease at the same time. So we stopped. She said it plainly, without self-pity. The way you describe something that happened a long time ago and still hurts but has become part of the landscape of your life. I think that is why I like talking to you, Kendra. You are living the thing I wanted most. You are a mother. And you are doing it alone. And you are doing it well. Kendra did not know what to say to that. She straightened the napkin, adjusted the cup. I do not know about well. I am just doing it. That is what well looks like, Vivian said. It looks like just doing it, day after day, without anyone clapping. The next week, Kendra came in during the lunch round. She pushed the door open with her hip and stopped. A nurse was in the room, changing the blood bag on the IV pole. The old bag was empty. The new one was full. Dark red, almost black in the light from the window. The nurse hung it, connected the line, adjusted the drip rate. Kendra set the lunch tray down, glanced at the new bag the way you glance at a clock, without thinking, without stopping. New bag today, she asked the nurse. Fresh from the blood bank this morning. The nurse checked the label. She is responding well. Numbers are up. Kendra nodded, turned back to Vivian. Got your lunch right here, Mrs. Foster. Turkey sandwich, applesauce, and your tea. Warm, not hot. You are a treasure, Kendra. You know that. I am a dietary aide. I just bring the food. No, you bring the food the right way. There is a difference. Kendra left the room. She did not look back at the blood bag. She had no reason to. She saw dozens of them every day hanging beside dozens of beds. They were medical equipment. Background. She did not know that the blood in that bag had been drawn from her own arm 72 hours ago. She did not know that it had been tested and typed and cross-matched and delivered specifically for the woman sitting in that bed. She had no reason to know. The system was designed so she would not know. 2 days later, Vivian brought it up. Kendra was collecting the breakfast tray. Vivian was in a reflective mood. She was looking at the IV pole. The bag was half empty, still dripping. "You know there is someone out there who gives their blood for me every month," Vivian said it quietly. Like she was talking to herself as much as to Kendra. "I do not know who they are. The hospital will not tell me. Donor anonymity. But I think about them all the time." Kendra paused, tray in hand. "Every month they show up, roll up their sleeve, give a piece of themselves, and then they leave. And they have no idea that the blood they just gave is the only thing keeping me alive." "That is a good person," Kendra said. "It is more than good." Vivian looked at her. "It is sacred. I wish I could meet them, just to say thank you, not because I owe them something, because I want them to know they matter. I want them to know that what they give is not invisible. Even if the system makes it feel that way." Kendra looked at Vivian, at her thin hands and her bright eyes and the blood bag dripping beside her bed. "That person sounds like someone my grandmother would have been proud of." Vivian smiled. "I think your grandmother and I would have gotten along." Kendra picked up the tray, pushed her cart toward the door. "I will see you tomorrow, Mrs. Foster. I will be here." Kendra walked into the hallway. The door closed softly behind her. She did not know that Vivian had been talking about her. She did not know that the blood bag she had glanced at without thinking had come from her own veins 72 hours before. She did not know that the woman who asked about Darius every morning and remembered her tea order and called her a treasure was alive because of what Kendra gave away for free in a room 2 floors below. She did not know any of it. She just knew that Vivian Foster was the only person in this entire hospital who remembered her name. The next morning, Lionel Foster was in Dr. Achebe's office before she had finished her coffee. The cup was still steaming on her desk. She had not even sat down. "I need to know who the donor is." He said it the way a man says it when he is used to getting what he asks for. The way a man says it when his name is on a dedication plaque in the lobby and his foundation funds the research wing. Dr. Achebe set her bag down slowly, sat in her chair, looked at him the way she looked at everyone. Steady, measured, without being impressed. "You know I cannot do that, Mr. Foster. My wife almost died last month. She almost died because her platelet count collapsed between transfusions. And you are telling me there is one person, one single person in this entire city who has been keeping her alive for 14 months. And I am not allowed to know their name. That is exactly what I am telling you." Lionel paced to the window, paced back. He was not a man who paced. He was a man who decided things and then acted on them. But this was not a problem he could decide his way out of. "There are laws around this," Dr. Achebe continued. Her voice was calm, not cold. Calm. "Donor anonymity is not a suggestion. It is a federal protection. It exists because without it, donors get pressured. They get harassed. They get guilt-tripped into giving more than their bodies can safely handle. The system works because donors trust that their privacy will be respected. If we break that trust, donors stop coming. And if donors stop coming, patients like Vivian die." Lionel turned to face her. "I am not going to pressure anyone. I want to thank them. I want to make sure they are taken care of. I want to guarantee that my wife has a reliable source of blood going forward. And I understand that." Dr. Achebe folded her hands. "But what you want does not override what they are entitled to. This person chose to donate anonymously. That means they chose not to be found. And respecting that choice is not optional. Not for you. Not for me. Not for anyone." Lionel pulled out his phone, opened his banking app, turned the screen toward Dr. Achebe. $3 million. Right now. Transferred to this hospital's rare blood research fund. All I need is a name. Dr. Achebe looked at the screen, looked at the number, 6 zeros. Then she looked at Lionel with an expression that made something shift inside his chest, something uncomfortable, something he could not buy his way out of. "And if I sell that name, For $3 million, what does that make me? What does that make this hospital? A place where the wealthy can buy access to anyone's private information as long as the check is big enough. She stood up. Mr. Foster, I am deeply sympathetic to what you and Vivian are going through. She is my patient, and I care about her. But I will not sell a donor's identity. Not for $3 million. Not for $30 million. The day this hospital puts a price tag on a person's right to privacy is the day we stop being a hospital and start being a marketplace. Lionel put his phone away. His hands were shaking, not from anger, from something worse, from the realization that for the first time in his adult life, there was something his money could not touch. Something that existed outside the reach of everything he had built. He left without another word. Dr. Achebe sat alone in her office. The coffee was cold now. She turned to her computer. The donor file was still open on the screen. She had not closed it from this morning's review. A name. She saw it every month when the blood bank processed the donation. She saw it on the schedule. She saw it in the system. She looked at the name for a long time. Then she closed the file. She will be back next month. She always comes back. She said it to no one. The office was empty. Lionel was already gone. He did not hear the pronoun. He did not hear the quiet certainty in her voice. He did not hear anything except the sound of his own footsteps echoing down a hallway in a hospital that bore his family's name on the wall but would not give him the one thing he wanted most. A name. A simple name. The name of the woman who was keeping his wife alive. It was a Thursday. 3:22 in the afternoon. Vivian had been fine that morning. She had eaten breakfast. She had talked to Kendra about a book she was reading. She had laughed at something on the television. She had looked like a woman who was sick but stable. The kind of stable that lets you forget for an hour or two that stable is not the same as safe. By noon her skin had changed. Not dramatically, not the way it happens in movies. It was subtle. The color draining from her face the way water drains from a sink. Slow, quiet. The kind of change you only notice if you are paying close attention. By 1 o'clock her eyes had gone dull. The brightness that had been there that morning, the sharpness that made Vivian look like herself even in a hospital bed was gone. Her breathing was shallow, fast, wrong. Dr. Achebe was paged at 1:15. By 1:30 she was in the room reading the blood panel. Her face did not change. It never did. But her hands moved faster than usual. That was how you knew. Platelet count at 12,000. Hemoglobin at 5.8 and dropping. LDH through the roof. She is in full thrombotic crisis. What that means in plain language is this. Vivian's body was creating thousands of tiny blood clots inside her blood vessels. Those clots were consuming her platelets, the cells that stop bleeding, and destroying her red blood cells, the cells that carry oxygen. Her organs were slowly suffocating. Her kidneys first, then her heart. Without a transfusion of AB-negative blood within the next 6 to 8 hours, her organs would begin to shut down, one by one, starting with the ones she needed most. Lionel stood beside the bed. He had been there since noon. Then transfuse her. Do it now. We do not have the blood, Mr. Foster. Those 7 words landed like something physical. What do you mean you do not have the blood? AB negative is the rarest blood type in the country. Less than 1% of Americans carry it. The national supply is critically low right now, especially for rare types. We have contacted every regional blood bank within 200 miles. Nobody has AB negative in stock. Nobody. Lionel stared at her. This is a $400 million hospital. You are telling me you cannot find 1 bag of blood. I am telling you that money cannot manufacture blood that does not exist. Dr. Achebe's voice was steady, but her eyes were not. We have exactly 0 units of AB negative on hand. The only reliable donor we have had for the past 14 months. She stopped. She did not finish the sentence. The only donor, what? Doctor. Achebe looked at him, looked at Vivian, looked at the monitor showing her hemoglobin dropping in real time. 5.6, 5.4. I will make some calls. She left the room. Lionel stood there, his hand on the bedrail, his knuckles white, his eyes locked on the monitor. He had built a company that treated rare diseases in 30 countries. His technology had saved thousands of lives. And his wife was dying in a room with his family's name on the dedication plaque, and he could not do a single thing about it. The number on the screen dropped again, 5.2. He did not move. He could not move. Dr. Achebe walked to her office, closed the door. She knew there was one person who could help. One donor. The only AB negative regular they had. But that donor had given blood 3 weeks ago. The guidelines say 56 days between donations. It had been 21. Drawing her now would be early. Too early. Dangerous. She could not ask. She could not call. The donor did not even know whose blood she had been giving. But Dr. Achebe also knew something else. She knew that if that woman found out there was a patient dying for lack of AB negative blood, she would come. She would not need to be asked. She would just come. Because that is who she was. What Dr. Achebe did next would put 2 women's lives on a collision course, and only one of them knew it. Kendra heard about it at 4:47 that afternoon. She was on the 4th floor, pushing her cart through the east corridor, collecting dinner trays, when 2 nurses came around the corner. They were talking in the urgent, clipped tones that hospital staff use when something is going wrong fast. VIP on 6. TTP crisis. 44-year-old woman. Platelet count is crashing. They need AB negative and nobody has it. They have been calling blood banks all afternoon. Nothing. The other nurse shook her head. If they do not find a match by midnight, they are talking about emergency plasma exchange. And even that is a long shot without the right type. They turned the corner. They were gone. They had not noticed Kendra standing there with an armful of empty trays. AB negative. Kendra set the trays down slowly. Her heart was doing something it had not done in a long time. Not beating fast. Not panicked, but loud, deep. The way it beats when you know something with absolute certainty. She had AB negative blood. She had donated 3 weeks ago. The guidelines say you need to wait at least 8 weeks between donations, 56 days. She was at 21. Donating now would be early. Too early. Her iron levels might not have recovered. She could get dizzy. She could faint. In rare cases, donating too frequently can cause serious anemia. The kind that puts the donor in a hospital bed instead of beside one. Kendra knew all of this. She had been donating long enough to know the rules by heart. She also knew that somewhere above her a woman was dying because nobody in this entire city had what she had. She did not know it was Vivian. She did not connect VIP on 6 with room 618. She did not think about the woman who remembered her tea order or asked about Darius. She just heard that a patient was in trouble. That was all she needed to hear. She walked to the blood bank, pushed open the door. Patricia looked up, surprised. Kendra, you are not due for another 5 weeks. I know. I am here because I heard you need AB negative. I have it. Take mine. Patricia shook her head. I cannot. You donated 3 weeks ago. Your hemoglobin might not be high enough. If I draw you now and your levels crash, I am putting you at risk. There are protocols. I know the rules. Kendra's voice was calm, steady. The voice of a woman who had made her decision before she walked through the door. I also know that somewhere in this hospital a woman is dying because nobody has what I have, so take my blood. I will deal with the consequences. Patricia hesitated, looked at her screen, looked at Kendra. Then she paged Dr. Achebe. Dr. Achebe arrived 4 minutes later. She looked at Kendra, and something shifted behind her eyes. Something heavy, something she could not say, because Dr. Achebe knew. She knew exactly where this blood was going. She knew the name of the patient. She knew the name of the husband. And she knew that the woman standing in front of her in faded scrubs and worn shoes, offering her own blood at the cost of her own health, had been keeping that patient alive for 14 months without ever being told. She wanted to say it. She wanted to tell Kendra everything. She wanted to say the woman you are saving is the same woman you bring tea to every morning, the one who asks about your son, the one who calls you a treasure. Her husband is worth $3.8 billion, and he has no idea you exist. But the rules existed for a reason. Donor anonymity protected people like Kendra from being pressured or exploited, and Dr. Achebe had sworn to uphold those rules, even when every part of her wanted to break them. You understand the risks. I understand them. And you want to proceed. I need to proceed. There is a difference. Dr. Achebe looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded, drew her a chair. The needle went in. Kendra's blood, dark and warm, and full of the antibodies that matched only one woman 4 floors above her, began filling the bag. She closed her eyes, felt the familiar pull, the slight dizziness that always came when she gave too soon. Too much. Too often. She did not care. Her grandmother's words moved through her like a heartbeat. You do not give blood because you know who needs it. You give it because someone does. That is enough. 4 floors below room 618. Kendra sat in a donation chair with her eyes closed and her arm extended, giving away the thing her body needed most. 4 floors above the blood bank called up to hematology. 1 unit of AB negative, fresh, available, ready. Dr. Achebe carried the bag herself. She did not trust a courier with this one. She took the stairs because the elevator was too slow. She walked into room 618 where Lionel Foster sat beside his wife holding her hand. His face gray with the kind of fear that money cannot fix. She hung the bag, connected the line, started the drip. 2 women in the same building, connected by blood, separated by 4 floors, and a wall of anonymity that was about to crack. If you are invested in this story, subscribe now. Because what is about to happen between Kendra and the woman in room 618 will change both their lives forever. Vivian's breathing slowed first. Not in a bad way. In the way that happens when a body finally gets what it needs. The shallow, rapid gasps that had been shaking her chest for hours began to deepen, to even out, to find a rhythm again. Her color started to shift, the waxy gray fading to something warmer, something alive. Her fingers, which had been cold to the touch since noon, began to warm under Lionel's grip. He pressed his forehead against her hand. He did not speak. He could not. The relief was so enormous, it had taken his language away. He just sat there, forehead against his wife's knuckles, eyes closed, breathing for the first time in hours. The monitor beeped. Hemoglobin 5.4, then 5.6, then 5.8, climbing. Slowly, but climbing. The blood was working. Someone else's blood, a stranger's blood, doing what $3.8 billion could not. Dr. Achebe stood by the door and watched the numbers rise. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. She looked at the blood bag hanging on the IV pole, and she thought about the woman 4 floors below who was lying in a recovery chair right now. Dizzy, depleted, alone. 4 floors below, Kendra was lying still. The room was spinning slightly, not fast, just enough to make the ceiling tilt when she turned her head. Her arms felt heavy, like they were filled with sand. Patricia had given her juice and crackers and strict instructions not to move for 30 minutes. Kendra drank the juice slowly. She could feel her body telling her something. She had given too much, too soon. The dizziness was not the normal kind. It was deeper, the kind that sits behind your eyes and does not leave when you blink. She lay there staring at the ceiling of the blood bank, and she thought about Darius. She needed to be healthy. She needed to work tomorrow. She needed every shift she could get, because the surgery was not getting cheaper and the calendar was not getting longer. If she collapsed, if she ended up in a bed instead of beside one, there was nobody else. No backup plan, no safety net. Just a 6-year-old boy with a bad ear and a mother who had just emptied her veins for a stranger. She closed her eyes, breathed, waited for the spinning to stop. It did not stop. After 40 minutes, Patricia let her sit up, slowly, then stand, slowly. Kendra put on her jacket, the thin one, the one that had been washed so many times the zipper stuck halfway up. She walked out of the blood bank. Her legs felt wrong, not weak exactly, just not hers, like she was borrowing someone else's body, and it did not quite fit. She made it to the parking lot. got into her car, a 2009 sedan with a cracked windshield and a passenger mirror held on with duct tape. She sat behind the wheel and did not turn the key. She knew she had done the right thing. She knew it the way she knew her grandmother's voice, down to her bones. But right did not make the dizziness go away. Right did not pay for Darius's surgery. Right did not put food in the refrigerator, or replace the light bulb in the kitchen, or cover next month's rent. She sat in that car in the hospital parking lot and waited for the world to stop tilting. 4 floors above her, Vivian Foster was asleep. Her color was coming back. Her vitals were stabilizing. The imported linen sheets were pulled up to her chin. The blood bag was still dripping. Kendra's blood, keeping her alive, keeping her warm. And Kendra was sitting in a cold car with the engine off, waiting to stop being dizzy so she could drive home to a 6-year-old boy who needed an $18,000 surgery she could not afford. One woman asleep in linen. One woman shaking in a parking lot. Both alive because of the same blood. Neither one knew it. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon. Kendra was on her lunch break, which was not really a break. It was 15 minutes in the staff hallway, eating a granola bar she had brought from home, because the cafeteria charged $6 for a sandwich, and $6 was not something she spent on herself. Her phone buzzed. A number she recognized. The ENT clinic at Rush. The doctor was kind. He was always kind. But kind does not change the math. Darius's hearing loss was progressing. The infection had damaged the eardrum beyond what antibiotics could repair. He needed surgery, a tympanoplasty. And he needed it within 2 months. Not 6, not 8, 2. After that, the damage would become permanent. The cost, $18,000 out of pocket. The hospital had a financial assistance program, but the waiting list was 8 to 12 months long. Darius did not have 8 months. His eardrum did not care about waiting lists. Kendra stood in that hallway with the phone pressed to her ear and did not say anything for a long time. She thanked the doctor. She hung up. She put the phone in her pocket. She finished her granola bar. She went back to work. That is what people do when the weight gets heavier. They do not stop. They just carry it quieter. But that night, the weight found her. She was sitting on the floor next to Darius. He was drawing again. This time, it was a picture of the two of them on a bus. He drew the bus yellow, even though Chicago buses are not yellow. He drew Kendra holding his hand. He drew himself with a big smile. "Mama, why do you go to the blood room every month?" Kendra looked at him. He had overheard her talking to Patricia on the phone last week. She had not realized he was listening. Children always listen when you think they are not, because there are people who need it. And I have the kind that is hard to find. Does it hurt? A little. Then why do you do it if it hurts? Kendra was quiet for a moment. She looked at his drawing, at the yellow bus, and the big smile, and the two of them holding hands. She thought about her grandmother sitting beside her in that church on 63rd Street, holding her hand while the needle went in. Because Grandma Gloria used to say that the things that matter most always cost you something. Darius thought about this. The way 6-year-olds think about things. Seriously. Without pretending to understand more than they do. Like how it costs you being tired. Yeah, baby. Like that. He went back to drawing. Kendra watched him. His left ear, the one that was going silent, was turned toward her. She wondered if he had heard everything she just said. She wondered how many of her words were already lost in the space between his ear and his brain. She put him to bed at 8:30, read him a story, tucked the blanket the way Gloria used to tuck it, turned off the light. Then she went to the kitchen. And she fell apart. It was 2:30 in the morning. The apartment was dark, except for the light above the stove, the one that worked, the one she left on, because Darius was afraid of the dark, and the glow reached just far enough down the hallway to touch his door. Kendra sat at the table. She did not sit in a chair. She sat on the floor with her back against the cabinet and her knees pulled up, and she cried. Not the quiet kind. Not the kind you do when you are trying to hold it together. The ugly kind. The kind where your whole body shakes and you cannot breathe, and you press your face into your hands, and you make sounds that do not belong in a language. She cried because she was broke. Because her son needed surgery she could not afford. Because she was exhausted. Because her iron levels were low, and her body was telling her she had given too much too soon, and she was still going to give again next month, because that is who she was. She cried because she had donated her blood 14 times in 14 months, and not one person in the world knew. Not one person had ever said thank you. And she did not want to be thanked. She had never wanted that. But she also did not want to be invisible anymore. And she hated herself for wanting that. Because wanting to be seen felt like it cheapened the giving, like it turned something sacred into something selfish. She cried at 2:30 in the morning in a small kitchen, and nobody heard her. Nobody ever heard her. When she was done, she wiped her face with the back of her hand, blew her nose on a paper towel, drank a glass of water from the tap. She was not going to stop donating. She knew that. She had known it before she started crying. The crying was not about deciding. It was about feeling the cost of a decision she had already made. She would find another way for Darius. She always found a way. It was never easy. It was never clean. But she always found one. She stood up, turned off the stove light, walked to her bedroom, lay down. She did not sleep. This story is about to take a turn that will change everything. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you do not miss what happens next. It was 1:13 in the morning when Lionel Foster's world cracked open. He had come to the hospital because he could not sleep. He had been doing this more often since the crisis, driving to St. Catherine's in the middle of the night, sitting beside Vivian, watching her breathe, counting the rises and falls of her chest, convincing himself she was still there. He was walking from the elevator toward the VIP wing when he passed the blood bank. The door was ajar. The hallway was empty. 2 nurses inside were talking. He would not have stopped. He would not have listened. But one of them said a name that caught his ear. Kendra Wallace came in again during the emergency last week. AB negative. She donated early, only 3 weeks since her last draw, put herself at risk. That woman has been the only reason the Foster patient is still here. 14 months, same donor. Every single time. The other nurse shook her head. And she has no idea. Does not know who gets her blood. Does not know it is Vivian Foster. Just shows up every month like clockwork. Never asks a question. Lionel stopped walking. His feet would not move. His heart was beating so loud he was sure the nurses could hear it through the wall. Kendra Wallace, AB negative, 14 months, the Foster patient, his wife. His wife's blood, his wife's life. A woman named Kendra, a dietary aide. The name on a badge he had glanced at and never read. The face he had passed in hallways without registering. The woman with the meal cart who was always there. The woman Vivian talked about with warmth. The dietary aide who remembers my tea. Lionel walked away from the blood bank, slowly, quietly. His hands were trembling. He went downstairs, followed the sound of wheels on tile, the squeak of a cart being pushed through an empty corridor. He found her on the 3rd floor, East Wing. Kendra was in an empty patient room, collecting trays from the late dinner service, wiping down the bedside table. Overtime work, the kind she picked up whenever she could, because every extra hour was another $12 towards something she could not afford. Lionel stood at the end of the hallway and watched her. He watched her hands, blue nitrile gloves stretched tight over fingers that were cracked beneath them. Her scrubs faded from their original color to something that did not have a name anymore. Her shoes worn through at the toe held together with something that might have been glue. She was wiping the table in slow, careful circles. Methodical, precise. The way someone works when they take pride in even the smallest task, even when nobody is watching. Especially when nobody is watching. And Lionel realized something standing in that hallway at 1 in the morning that hit him harder than any number on any screen. He had walked past this woman 100 times. 100 times. In the lobby, in the elevator, in the hallway outside his wife's room. He had looked through her the way you look through glass. She was background. She was furniture. She was nobody. And she was the reason his wife was alive. He thought about what he had said to Dr. Achebe. $3 million. $3 million for a name. And here was the name. Here was the person, on her knees, wiping down a table in an empty room for $13.50 an hour. And she had been giving away her own blood for free every month for 14 months to keep his wife breathing. He stood there for a long time. He did not speak. He did not approach her. He did not do anything except stand and watch and feel something open up inside his chest that he did not have a word for. Something between shame and gratitude and awe, and the terrible realization that the most important person in his wife's life had been invisible to him for over a year. Then he turned around, and he walked away. It was not the right time. He did not have the right words. He did not know what to say or how to say it, or whether anything he could say would be enough. But everything had changed. Everything. It was 6:15 in the morning. November in Chicago. The kind of cold that finds the gaps in your jacket and settles into your bones. The sky was still dark. The parking lot lights cast long yellow pools on the asphalt. Kendra walked out of the hospital the same way she always did. Head down, thin jacket pulled tight, bag over one shoulder. Moving fast because the bus came at 6:25, and if she missed it, she would have to wait 40 minutes for the next one. She did not see the man leaning against the black car near the east exit. She would not have recognized him if she had. Lionel Foster was not someone whose face she had ever had reason to learn. "Excuse me." Kendra stopped, turned, looked at the man. Expensive coat, tired eyes, hands in his pockets. He did not look dangerous. He looked like a man who had not slept in days. "Can I help you?" "Are you Kendra?" "Kendra Wallace." Something tightened in her chest. When strangers know your full name, it is rarely good news. "Yes." "Who are you?" Lionel did not answer the question. Not yet. Instead he asked one. "Why do you do it?" "Donate blood every month." "For over a year." "Why?" The tightness in her chest turned cold. "How do you know about that?" "Please." Lionel's voice was quiet, almost careful, like a man handling something fragile. "I am not here to cause trouble. I just need to understand. Why do you do it?" Kendra studied his face. She was good at reading people. You learn that when you spend your days delivering meals to people who cannot always tell you what they need. This man was not threatening. He was something else. He was barely holding himself together. "Because I can." She said it simply. "I have a rare blood type. AB negative. There are not many of us, and people die when the supply runs out. So I show up. That is all. That is all." Lionel repeated. "That is all." He was quiet for a moment. Steam from his breath rose and disappeared. "My name is Lionel Foster. My wife is Vivian. She has been a patient on the 6th floor for over a year. She has a blood disorder that is destroying her from the inside. Without regular transfusions, she dies. And the only blood type that matches hers is AB negative." Kendra felt the ground shift under her feet. "For 14 months, Lionel continued, one person has been keeping my wife alive. One donor. The same person, every single month. Anonymous, consistent, never missed once. The hospital would not tell me who." He looked at her. "It is you, Kendra. You are the one." The parking lot was very quiet. A car passed on the street. Somewhere a bird called out in the dark. "Your wife," Kendra said. "What room is she in?" 618, 6th floor, VIP wing." She felt something crack open inside her chest. Not break, crack open. The way a seed cracks when something inside it starts to grow. "Mrs. Foster," she whispered. "Vivian Foster. The woman in 618. That is who has been getting my blood. You know her. I bring her meals every morning. She asks about my son. She remembers how I like to fix her tea. She told me once about the person who donates blood for her every month. How she thinks about them all the time. How she wishes she could meet them just to say thank you. Just to tell them they matter." Kendra's voice was shaking now. "She was talking about me. She was talking about me, and I was standing right there, and I did not know." Lionel nodded. He could not speak. "I have been feeding her and saving her, and I did not know it was the same person. I did not know she was the one getting my blood. I just thought I was giving blood to a stranger and bringing food to a friend. I did not know they were the same." She pressed her hand against her mouth. She stood there in that parking lot in a thin jacket in the freezing cold and felt 14 months of anonymous giving suddenly become real. Not a bag in a cooler, not a number in a database. A person, a specific person. A woman with bright eyes and thin hands who asked about Darius every morning and called her a treasure and was alive because of what flowed through Kendra's veins. "I did not save your wife, Mr. Foster." Kendra said it through tears. "I just gave blood. Anyone with AB negative could have done the same, but they did not." Lionel's voice broke. "For 14 months, nobody else showed up. Only you." He stepped forward. And then Lionel Foster, a man worth $3.8 billion, a man whose name was on buildings and magazine covers and the side of a hospital wing, knelt down on the cold asphalt in his expensive coat, on his knees. But he did not kneel to say thank you. "I walked past you," he said. His voice was raw. 100 times. I walked past you in the hallway, in the elevator, outside my wife's room. 100 times, and I never saw you. I never once looked at your face. I never once asked your name. You were saving my wife's life, and I did not even know you existed. Please stand up," Kendra said. "Sir, please." "I am sorry," Lionel said. And he meant it in a way that went deeper than Vivian. He was sorry for every invisible person he had ever walked past, every dietary aide whose name he had never learned, every transporter whose cart he had stepped around without a glance. He was sorry for 47 years of not seeing. Kendra reached down and took his arm, gently, the way she would lift a patient, the way she would comfort a frightened person. She helped him stand. They stood there in the cold, both crying, neither speaking, because sometimes there are no words big enough for what passes between people when one of them finally sees the other for the first time. Lionel collected himself, wiped his face, cleared his throat, started talking in the way men like him talk when they want to fix things. "I want to help you. I want to pay for whatever you need. Your son's surgery, medical school, a new apartment, whatever it costs. Name it. I will make it happen today." Kendra looked at him, and for the first time in this conversation her eyes were not sad. They were sharp. "No," Lionel blinked. "No, I do not want your money, Mr. Foster." He stared at her. This was not a response he had encountered before. In his world, everyone wanted something. Everyone had a price. Every problem could be solved with the right number of zeros. "I am offering you everything you need," he said carefully. "And I am saying no." Kendra's voice was steady. "If I take money for blood, it stops being a gift. It becomes a transaction. And my grandmother taught me that giving is not for sale. Not to you. Not to anyone." Lionel opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Then what do you want? Because I have to do something. I cannot just walk away from this and pretend you are not the reason my wife is alive." Kendra was quiet for a moment. She looked at the hospital behind her, at the building she entered every morning and left every afternoon, at the place where she pushed carts and delivered trays, and was never once seen by the people who ran it. "You want to thank me," she said. "Then change how your hospital treats people like me, not just me. Every dietary aide, every transporter, every housekeeper, every person who shows up before the doctors and leaves after the nurses and never gets a living wage, never gets seen, never gets thanked." She met his eyes. "You built a company that heals with technology. That is wonderful. But there are people in this building right now healing with their bare hands for $13.50 an hour, and nobody knows their names. You want to do something. Start there." Lionel stood in the cold, looking at a woman who had just turned down more money than she would make in a lifetime. A woman who did not want his gratitude. She wanted justice. Not for herself, for everyone like her. And for the first time in a very long time, Lionel Foster felt small. Not in a bad way. In the way you feel small when you stand in front of something bigger than yourself and realize you have a lot of growing to do. Lionel brought Kendra to the 6th floor the next afternoon. She had changed out of her scrubs, put on the nicest clothes she owned. A sweater her grandmother had given her years ago, dark green, soft. The kind of sweater you keep even when the elbows start to thin because it still smells like the person who gave it to you. She felt out of place in the VIP wing. She always did. But today was different. Today she was not here to deliver food. Lionel opened the door to room 618. Vivian was sitting up in bed, reading. Her color was good today. The last transfusion was holding. She looked up when the door opened, and her face shifted through 3 expressions in the space of a second. Surprise, confusion, then something deeper. Kendra, you are here in your regular clothes. What is going on? Kendra stood in the doorway. She looked at Vivian. She looked at the IV pole beside the bed, at the blood bag hanging there, half empty, still dripping. She had seen that bag 100 times and never thought twice. Now she understood what it was, where it came from, whose veins had filled it. Vivian looked at Lionel, looked at Kendra, looked at the blood bag, and she knew, it is you. You are the donor. The room went very quiet. I said I wanted to meet you. Vivian's voice was breaking. I said I wanted to say thank you. And you were here the whole time, every single morning, bringing me tea. Kendra crossed the room, sat in the chair beside the bed. The same chair she had never sat in before because sitting was not part of her job description. I did not know Mrs. Foster. I swear I did not know. Vivian reached out and took her hand, held it tight. The way you hold something you are afraid might disappear. That is what makes it matter. You did not do it for me. You did it for a stranger. And the stranger was me. They sat there, holding hands. The dietary aide and the billionaire's wife, the donor and the patient. 2 women who had been connected by blood for 14 months and never knew it. Vivian looked at the blood bag one more time. Then she looked at Kendra. You kept me alive so I could sit here and hold your hand. Do you understand that? Every morning you walked in with a tray and a smile, and you had already given me the most important thing anyone has ever given me. And you did not even know. Kendra could not speak. She just held Vivian's hand tighter. It took Lionel 3 weeks. 3 weeks of meetings and phone calls and lawyers and hospital board conversations that ranged from polite to heated. But Lionel Foster was very good at getting things done when he decided something needed to happen. The first thing he did was fund the Invisible Hands Initiative, a program for every non-clinical support worker at St. Catherine's. Dietary aides, CNAs, transporters, housekeeping, environmental services. Every person who touched patients daily and made less than $17 an hour. The program included a $3.50 per hour raise across the board. A professional development fund covering certifications and continuing education. And a medical assistance program for the families of support staff covering procedures and treatments that fell through the gaps in their insurance. Darius Wallace had his tympanoplasty 6 weeks later. The surgery was covered entirely through the Invisible Hands Medical Assistance Fund, not Lionel's personal check. The system, the same system Kendra had asked him to fix, the system she had fixed by asking. The second thing Lionel did was create the Gloria Wallace Healthcare Scholarship, named after a woman he had never met. A nurse's aide who worked 35 years in a community hospital and taught her granddaughter that hospitals are sacred ground. The scholarship was funded with an initial endowment of $8 million, open to any support staff worker in any hospital who wanted to pursue medical education. Full tuition, full stipend, no strings. Kendra applied without knowing who funded it. The letter came from the hospital's education office. Formal, official, no mention of Lionel Foster. She read it 3 times before she believed it. And there was something else. Something she noticed but did not say out loud. She had spent 14 months giving anonymously, and now she was receiving anonymously. The symmetry was not lost on her. The third thing Lionel did was redirect a portion of Foster Genomics research funding toward building a national rare blood type registry. a digital platform connecting rare blood donors with patients in real time. The technology that built his empire was finally being used to solve the problem that had almost taken his wife. 3 years later, on a bright Saturday morning in May, Kendra Wallace walked across a stage. She was 35 years old. She wore a black gown. Her name was called by the dean of the University of Illinois Chicago College of Nursing. And when she stood, the audience erupted. Not polite applause, something louder, something that came from the gut. She received her degree, registered nurse, specialization in hematology, the study of blood. She turned to face the audience. In the 5th row, Darius Wallace sat between Lionel and Vivian Foster. Darius was 9 now, tall for his age, healthy, his hearing fully restored. He was holding something up, a piece of paper, creased and yellowed from years of handling. The drawing, his mother at the hospital, bigger than the building, bigger than everyone. Vivian sat beside him, her TTP in sustained remission, thanks to a combination therapy developed in part with Foster Genomics research. She was wearing the reading glasses Kendra had seen 100 times in room 618. She was crying, she was smiling. Lionel sat with his hands folded in his lap. He was not crying yet, he would be. Kendra looked down at the audience from the stage, found the faces she was looking for. Darius with his drawing, Vivian with her tears. And she looked at her hands, the same hands, the ones that had pushed meal carts through empty hallways, the ones that had opened their veins 14 times so a stranger could live, the ones that had wiped down tables at midnight and tucked a boy into bed and held a grandmother's hand in a church on 63rd Street. Those hands were holding a nursing degree now. The same hands, different purpose, same person. Her grandmother's voice moved through her, quiet and steady, the way it always did when Kendra needed to remember who she was. You do not give blood because you know who needs it. You give it because someone does. That is enough. Kendra picked up her diploma, and she walked forward. Thank you for following Kendra's journey, from the woman nobody saw to the nurse who helped save the woman she had been saving all along. If this story moved you, if it made you think differently about the people you walk past every day, please subscribe to this channel and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Here is the truth. There are people in your life right now who are giving everything they have and getting nothing in return. People who show up every day and do the hardest work and never get seen. They are in your hospitals, your schools, your office buildings, your neighborhoods. They are pushing carts and driving buses and stocking shelves and caring for your parents and your children. And most of us walk right past them. Here is something most people do not know. The United States needs roughly 29,000 units of red blood cells every single day. AB, negative, the rarest type, is carried by less than 1% of the population. A single blood donation can save up to 3 lives. And yet blood banks across the country are critically low almost every month of the year. Here is something else. There are about 1.4 million certified nursing assistants and support staff workers in American hospitals right now. Nearly 45% of them leave their jobs within the first year, not because they do not care, because they cannot afford to stay. The average support staff worker earns between $14 and $17 an hour. You can clean hospital rooms and deliver meals and take vital signs and hold a dying person's hand at 3 in the morning and still not be able to afford your own health insurance. And TTP, the condition Vivian had in this story, is real. It affects roughly 3 to 11 people per million each year. It is rare, it is serious, and without treatment, it can be fatal. Now let me be honest with you. This story is fiction. But the emotions are real. The statistics are real. The people who show up every day and give without recognition, they are real. I wrote this story because I believe the people we walk past every day deserve to be seen. If even one person watches this and decides to donate blood or learns the name of the person who delivers their hospital meals, then this story did what it was meant to do. So I have 2 questions for you. When was the last time you donated blood? And who is someone in your daily life that you walk past without truly seeing? Leave your answers in the comments. Share this video with someone who gives without being seen. And if you have a rare blood type, please consider becoming a regular donor. You might be the only match for someone who is counting on you right now and does not even know your name. The most powerful thing in this world is not money. It is not technology. It is the choice to give when nobody is watching and nobody will ever know. So give. Give your blood. Give your time. Give your attention. And never underestimate the power of what you carry inside you. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss another story like this one.